Well, I mean, certainly, I wouldn't even really say 2 steps back. What I will say is in order to take 2 steps forward and really become a contending team, then Embiid being a central part of that was, would have been really beneficial. To me, and kind of what I've said before, I don't look at this as blowing the 3rd pick in last year's draft, in the 2014 draft. I don't lose sleep over not having Aaron Gordon or any of those guys. To me, it's disappointing because you don't have Joel Embiid, and because he can be that guy that can really make you relevant. Now, like you said, it'll be interesting with this surgery, what this means for his future. Does this actually make it more likely that he's able to play long term and be relatively healthy? Obviously, this is the surgery that both Yao Ming and Zydrunas Ilgauskas ended up getting. Worked out much better for Ilgauskas, who really played about 10 years after getting this surgery without any more fractures at the site. So there is certainly hope, even if there are other very high-profile cases where it didn't work out. I wouldn't quite say it's the death knell for the franchise or even the death knell for Embiid. Like you said, I think they're pretty well positioned. Not that you're ever positioned to lose what could be a generational type talent, but I think the Sixers, among other teams, have positioned themselves pretty good. But it's certainly about as disappointing of news as you can get. In July, it's tough.
It sure is. There's no doubt about it. I don't think that anybody can sugarcoat it to make you feel any better that you're going to miss watching this kid play. That being said, what the Sixers have around him still coming to them potentially, I don't know if there's any other team that could, if the Spurs don't ever get Tim Duncan, they're not the Spurs. Most teams are so reliant on getting one guy and him working out. I think what Henke has done has put the Sixers to not have to rely so heavily on Embiid, even though he may have been the best player of the lot.
Right. And, I mean, like you said, I don't want to sugarcoat it. Embiid was by far the best prospect they've drafted. I mean, I do put him in a different tier from Okafor, from Noel. I mean, he was not just that guy who could be an all-star, not that guy who could just be a franchise player. Like I said, I really do think he has the talent to be generational. And you look at guys like Noel, who obviously has to improve his offensive game quite a bit, or a guy like Okafor, who has defensive question marks. Embiid, besides health, just in terms of pure basketball, really has very little to almost no question marks about his game. He could be dominant in pretty much every which way. And you look at the improvement he was making from the time he was 16 and really started picking up the sport seriously to where he was, at Kansas. And you look at his development curve and how quickly he was picking stuff up. To me, almost the biggest disappointment isn't just that he's not healthy and playing and that there might be a cloud over whether he could do that, stay healthy long term. It's that he's missing 2 years of development. And this is time that he could be really honing his craft and taking all of that physical talent that he has and really becoming a great basketball player. And that's disappointing as well. But certainly, I mean, they have, a lot of talent on roster, and I do think Okafor and Noel are two high-level talents. They're starting to get some intriguing supporting pieces in guys like Stauskas and Covington, and they have a lot of options in the future that, like you said, you need luck, and they're going to need some luck as well. But with the Kings pick swaps, the unprotected Kings pick, the only top 3 protected Lakers pick, and the Sixers own pick in 2016, they still have a lot more opportunity to get a great player. So it's not all doom and gloom. But certainly, I mean, this is the guy who was by far the best chance of being a franchise changer. So you don't want to see that happen.
Yeah, Derek, I can kind of hear in the sound of your explanation here that you have no reservations about taking Embiid then with the 3rd pick, because there were people at the time that had him off the board that would not have taken him. He had back injuries. He did have the foot problem at that point. So if the 76ers already went through the Bynum stuff and had knowledge that this was an issue, was that too big of a risk in your opinion, or do you have no issue with them even if they had knowledge that this could be a potential issue?
No issue with them taking Embiid whatsoever. I mean, the chance to get really, truly great, guys who could end up, guys who have Hall of Fame type talent, you don't get that opportunity very, very frequently. Guys like Aaron Gordon, guys like Marcus Smart, Dante Exum, those guys, they come out, and you can get those types of guys every year. Guys of this caliber, you just don't get that opportunity. And no, I have no issue, even if they knew that this was a possibility, even if they knew this was a 50-50. I will take those odds because we talk about risk reward all the time. There's that great risk, but I mean that reward was worth it for me. It's just you don't get this opportunity very often.
I agree. Derek Bodner's with us, 97.3 ESPN.com. He's got an article up at Philly Mag as well right now about this. And Derek, obviously, I don't know that anyone's asked this question or if anybody's been accessible to ask this question, but why was this not the procedure that he had done the first time?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question to ask. I have sent out calls and texts. It would be surprising for anybody within the organization or within the medical team that made that decision for them to really answer that question and to give a sincere answer that everybody would be happy with. But this is certainly something that is frequently done to strengthen the site of an injury such as that. It's something that obviously guys in the past have had done, and it's something that it's a fair question that quite frankly deserves to be asked and answered. So yeah, I do think that's a fair question.
Yeah, and I guess
I do not have an answer for
No, and I guess one of the things that I was kind of questioning before you jumped on, Derek, was there have been some reports that he has gone from 7 feet to 7 feet 2. I mean, that's a couple of inches to make in a very short amount of time. You wonder if this quick growth spurt had anything to do with this bone not healing, and that's why he's not feeling pain, but at the same time, while his foot was not healing properly, because I guess there have been a lot of reports that he has grown a couple inches over the last couple months.
Yeah, no, I mean, he sent that text to Brett Brown where he said he was 7'2". I mean, certainly it seems like bone growth, you're at your most susceptible to injury, especially with bones, when you're growing. I have heard that before. It does seem like a fair question. And again, I don't know if we're ever really going to get an honest answer with that. It's kind of a shame that the NBA measures these guys and releases that measurement only once in their career when they enter the league at the NBA pre-draft camp. It would be interesting to see, how frequently guys of this age actually grow and grow substantially like that. It's again a very fair question. It's just one I don't think there's a very good likelihood that we're going to get a good quality answer about.
I teased before you came.
One that his doctors might not even be able to tell you with certainty either.
Yeah, I teased before you came on, and you kind of answered it before, but I'll ask you. If Embiid and Okafor were in the same draft, who would go first?
Are we talking without the health question marks?
Yeah, if you're taking the two prospects as just healthy players.
Oh, it's to me, it's Embiid without question, and all the people I talk to around the league, I think it would be Embiid without question. I think he would have been, the top prospect taken in either of the past two drafts. Again, almost without question. If that injury concern isn't there, and you're just evaluating them on a basketball court and their long-term prospects, then I do think he is pretty far and away the best prospect of the last two drafts.
All right, Derek Bodner's with us. Let's talk a little bit about the Summer League while we got you here, obviously. I want to get your thoughts on Pierre Jackson. He had a good game the first night, did not play as well the second game. Does he have now he's not signed at this point, but does he have a legitimate shot to not only make the team, but to possibly, I guess, be a starter or get major minutes?
Yeah, I think he has, a pretty good shot to make the team. Probably very good shot to make the team. He certainly adds a dynamic to the Sixers offense. And the Sixers perimeter game, they just don't have outside of him. His ability to shoot from the perimeter. He can play off the pick and roll pretty well. And he can really use his quickness and his speed to get in the lane and make things happen in that regard as well. So, yeah, I think he has a pretty good shot of making the team. Obviously, his height, under 6 feet in size. Not the greatest defender in the world and can sometimes be a little bit he can dominate the ball a little bit and look for his own offense probably more than you want. He's certainly a guy who's gonna get his looks at the basket. But he, like I said, he adds such a dynamic to the Sixers offense that I think he's worth keeping around, seeing how well he can come back from that injury. And so far, from a physical perspective, he looks fine. And giving him a chance to make that team. They did make investment in him when he went out last year. I think it was $400,000 that they ended up giving him and guaranteeing in his contract. Even though he was injured, not going to be able to play for the rest of the year. So I do think they want him around. I think they want to see what they have in him, and I do think he makes the team and has a chance to get good minutes.
Yeah, let me get your thoughts too on Jakar Sampson. Now, here's a guy that I liked watching him last year. I mean, as a developmental project. I think long defender, brought the ball up, can defend on the perimeter. I thought his offensive game took a huge advancement from where he was in April to where he was the other night. Is he a guy that impressed you, and do you think could be a surprise?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who's pretty consistently made progress over the past 12 months. At times over the summer league, I think he's been a little bit out of control, maybe trying to do a little bit too much. But, he made so much progress with that jump shot over the course of the season. Really even as a ball handler and being able to initiate some plays. I think he's a guy, I don't think you want to get too excited about him, but he has enough defense and he's shown enough improvement. But I think he's still going to be streaky. But I think he's a guy that you keep around and you see if you can develop because he has made, so much progress and shown such positive growth. And he's such a hard worker and a good kid. So you add his athleticism, his defense, and the improvement he makes. And I think he's an interesting player to develop. Another really unheralded guy, but a guy who could turn into a solid role player for them.
All right. Any other guys kind of sticking out to you as this summer camp is tomorrow night, their final game? We've seen a couple of different guys on the two different rosters, but obviously Jeremy Grant, he's a guy who we've all kind of known. But is there any other under-the-radar players that have stood out to you, I should say, in the two summer leagues?
Yeah, well, I thought Furkan Aldemir when he made those 3 threes, and that's clearly not something that you expect to happen on any kind of a regular basis right now. But just the fact that he had the confidence to take those shots, that he did make them, he has to add something to his offensive game because he didn't contribute at all outside of offensive rebounds on that side of the court. So I think him adding that shot, and not so much that I expect that to be something that's consistent and something that he does on a regular basis in game situations, but just the fact that he's making any kind of progress at all. I mean, this is a guy who didn't even really attempt threes over in Europe. I think he had made 3 threes over in his European career. So this is an entire new facet of his game that he's adding. And he has so much rebounding ability that if he just adds something on the offensive side of the court, then I think he's going to be, a role player in the NBA. So I think that is something he really needs to add to his game to make himself a legitimate NBA player. And I think there's been positive progress in that regard.
All right, he's at Derek Bodner, NBA, of course, for more on the Sixers, and of course the Sixers Summer League tomorrow night. They continue up in their final matchup of the Las Vegas Summer League. You have any idea if Okafor is going to play tomorrow? I know he sat out last night.
I would expect for Okafor to play in the final game. With 2 nights of rest. I would expect for him to play.
All right, Derek Bodner, everybody. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.